Have you seen those movies when the surgeon gets, they're gonna do a heart transplant and they get the heart out of the chest cavity, living, beating heart, and they cut all the wires, all the nerves supplying the heart, and you put it on the table, and yet the heart, denervated completely with no nerves attached, it keeps beating in the table, out of your body. Isn't that amazing and true? The heart has its own nervous system. It has a brain on its own. And even though it's receiving nerves from the nervous system, it has it relies actually in its own set of cells. They are on the same cardiac cells, but they are a little bit different, and they specialize in conducting the electrical current more than or rather than contracting. So these cardiac cells form the conductive, I should have put it there, right? The conducting system of the heart. That should be the title of this video. The conducting system of the heart. So this set, I'm going to describe for you the components of this conductive system of the heart. So first of all, we have a cluster of those cells in the superior aspect of the right atrium. That's where it's located, right, close to the opening of the superior vena cava into the right atrium. And that is called the sinoatrial node. And sinoatrial node is our pacemaker. Natural pacemaker is the one that sets the basic heart rate for us, for the heart. So it sends the signal, right, to the electrical current, the action potential, from here to the second node that is called the atrioventricular node, because of its location. It's located again in the right atrium, but now in the inferior aspect of the right atrium, between the right and the left ventricle. Between the atrium and the ventricle. And that's why it's called atrioventricular node. Now, how it works. The sinoatrial node fires first the action potential, sends the action potential, and spreads this electrical current throughout both atria, okay? And this is only the electrical current. It spreads everything, and then they all converge, stimulating all the muscle fibers of right and left atria to contract. They're being stimulated so far, okay? That signal reaches the atrioventricular node. And the atrioventricular node now transmits this electrical current through the interventricular septum. Now, there is a delay in here in between the signaling in the sinoatrial node and the receiving of that signal in the atrioventricular node. Milliseconds, actually, but there is a delay in time in here, and that allows that to the fact that the atrium contracts first and that ventricles contract later. Think about it. If the entire heart, and that's what we described in the cardiac cycle, if the four chambers of the heart contract all at the same time, there's no moment to fill the heart or another moment to eject the blood. It wouldn't be possible. So that's why we have this delay. Now we're here, the electrical current is being delivered now within the interventricular node by this bundle that is called atrioventricular bundle. Usually, or you can also find it as the bundle of His. That's how has been called for years. The thing is that this one branches into a right and a left bundle branches. So easy so far, right? And it continues, delivering these electrical current in this direction. And look at the direction of the fibers. Now they turn from the apex to the base, delivering the electrical current or the signal to contract to the papillary muscles of each ventricle, and the signal ends right here at the base of the ventricles, okay? So that direction of the contraction, and by the way, these little branches, didn't tell you, these little branches that stimulate individually each cardiac muscle cell are called Purkinje fibers. Now, the direction of the depolarization or of the traveling of the action potential or the electrical wave assures that the apex is stimulated first, and then the papillary muscles, and then it travels, in an ascending, or it ascends toward the atrium. So, and if you remember how the myocardium is arranged in here in bundles, that explain and assures that the contraction of the heart happens, of the ventricle, right and left, happens from the apex toward the base, from the apex towards the base. Why? Because here is where we're going to have the opening of the semilunar valves, so where we're going to eject the blood. So that's the conducting system of the heart. Remember, it's an automated and independent nervous system, let's call it like that, of the heart, okay? But, and this is what it sets your heartbeat, but the heart also receives nerves that can change, that can modify the rate of that heartbeat. Even though it's set by the conductive system of the heart, it can be modified by external nerves or nerves coming from our nervous system. So, and as you can recall from the previous module, the heart contains cardiac muscle, so it's innervated by the visceral division of the peripheral nervous system. So it has visceral sensory receptors that sends information to the central nervous system about pressure, volume, stretch of these fibers, etc. And the motor division, which is the autonomic division, consists of nerves or fibers are coming from the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. From the parasympathetic nervous system usually is the vagus nerve. If you remember, the 10th cranial nerve is the one that that's the parasympathetic nerve that innervates or supplies or stimulates or control the heartbeat of the heart. So what is the function, what is the effect of the parasympathetic stimulation? Do you remember? It slows down the heart rate. So as you can see, it innervates or supplies the sinoatrial and the atrioventricular node, and also the coronary arteries, which is important to understand if you want to read a little bit about coronary disease. But the thing is that innervates these two nodes, reducing or decreasing the heart rate, okay? The sympathetic fibers, in the other hand, remember that they stimulate or increases the heart rate. So what they do, these fibers innervate exactly the same structures, the atrioventricular node, the sinoatrial, the atrioventricular node, the coronary arteries, but also, as you can see, innervates the muscle itself that is not innervated by the parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic stimulation has two effects. it can raise your heart rate. And remember, this happens during stress, and we call exercise stress. So during exercise, we increase the heart rate, but also we increase the force of contraction of the cardiac cells. Okay, it's not just the heart rate, but the force, the strength of the contraction of this muscle. Okay, what else? Heart, yes, is filled with blood, but it is not a good way to obtain oxygens and nutrients from it, because, as you remember, the wall of the heart is pretty thick. So for that, for the oxygen present here in the heart chambers to diffuse throughout the entire wall of the heart, you maybe can supply the inner walls, but not the outer walls. So the very first two branches of the aorta, because the rest are going to be discussed next chapter, the very two first branches, guess who are be sending or delivered to? They are sent to the heart. Okay, so let's make sure that I can work so I can give blood to the rest of the body. So the aorta, the first two branches of the aorta are the coronary arteries, the right and left coronary arteries that give the oxygenated blood to the muscle in all the structure, not only the muscles, but all the structures of the heart. We have the left coronary artery that supplies the left atrium and left ventricle and the anterior portion of the right ventricle. And this is the right coronary artery that supplies the rest. And after these arteries have given up all the oxygen, right, the blood is going back to the heart. We're already in the heart, but we're going to deliver that into what? Into an atrium. Which atrium do you think? This is systemic. This is not coming from the lungs. So it's going to be empty on the right or in the left atrium? In the left atrium. So in here we can see the major cardiac veins. Not going to ask you to name them or to identify them. Just know that we have a huge one that is called the cardiac sinus, which is this large vein that, as you can see, collects. All of these veins are only collecting deoxygenated blood from the organ and empty the blood in these coronary sinus and other bigger veins. And the coronary sinus open or empty the blood into the right atrium, because this is systemic, right? Circuit. So we can summarize that the right atrium receives blood from the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinus. Okay, so in here, or like this, we conclude this chapter. I love it with all my heart. See you in the next. We are going to describe now the blood vessels. They're getting out or they're coming into the heart. See you in the next chapter. Bye.